Chapter 8. The Host of Butterflies. It was only minutes after the dog had crossed the open field to hide in the barn that the man threw open the kitchen door. The man had overslept. He somberly looked at the sky. "Going to rain," he muttered. He looked at the empty door sill before his feet. Late as it was, the little hen was not waiting for him at the kitchen door. "So now, it's sure you are dead," the man said almost angrily towards the empty doorsill and the little hen who wasn't there. "As I knew last night, of course. But I suppose I was still hoping against hope that I'd somehow missed you in the swamp and that you'd be sitting here again this morning." He looked into the threatening sky again. "I'm going to enjoy eating that rooster today. If I can enjoy anything today," he told himself softly. "But I'd rather enjoy more wading right into the swamp again to get my hands on whatever it was that came out of the swamp and finished off my little hen." He kicked the empty doorsill. "But what?" he asked himself helplessly. It was still daylight. What wild thing would come out of the swamp in daylight, chase a rooster clear to the house, and then beg to carry off the little hen? He shook his head. A hawk might have picked up the little hen in daylight, but hours under the hawk tree across the swamp, and there was no sign of red feathers under the hawk's nest. A dog might do something like that in daylight. He pounded. Suddenly, he threw his head up, stared straight at the barn. "The big dog!" he exclaimed. Did he come back? The thought startled him. Where could he possibly keep himself? "Only two possible places in this little farm," he answered himself. "Up in the hay barn or in the swamp." He started running to the big hay doors of the barn. He started running to the big hay doors and of the barn, but he stopped before the big doors, shook his head. He'd have to pull the bottom of one of those heavy doors out of the wall and then squeeze through. He couldn't do it. Then, through the thick doors, he heard a slight sound inside the barn. He stepped to the latch, noiselessly undid it, and with both hands sent both doors flying out along their rusty tracks. Right before his feet, in the open doorway, the startled white hen wailed up in the thunder of wings and scared crackling to the high crossbeam near the roof. "Oh, you!" the man said, disappointed. "Hey, I forgot you were still locked in here." He ran his eyes over the flat hay on the floor. Only in one corner did the hay rise in a small pile. He shook his head. Now what made me think he could be in here when it was impossible for him to get in here in the first place? He looked up at the hen, peering down at him over the edge of the beam. "I don't suppose You'll come down soon after the scare I gave you. So I'll just leave the doors open and you can come back to the flock on your own sweet time. Meanwhile, I've got to get to that swamp. Now I've got to get that dog on the brain. I've got to satisfy myself that he wasn't back. If he's back, then he killed my little red hen, and I'm going to kill him." He turned and almost ran to the swamp. In the barn, long after the man was gone, the dog slowly emerged from the pile of hay in the corner. He eyed the open doors, and he was troubled. The doors were wide open, but he was trapped in this just the same as long as the man was around. He was trapped. He turned and started to look for the man through one of the strings between the boards in the wall. The man was riding far across the open field, straight toward the old fallen willow at the edge of the swamp. But the man went right past the willow, and the little hen plashed into the swamp. The dog stayed at the shrink. Later it began to rain. The hard rain forced the man from the swamp, and again the dog watched in puzzlement as the man once more walked by the fallen willow tree, but came on alone. The little hen wasn't bobbing on his shoulder. The man came on as fast as it started to rain still harder. In a pouring rain, he came running past the barn, but the wide open hay doors caught his attention. He shoved one door shut, then looked into the barn for the little white hen. He did not see on this high beam, and thinking she had gone back to the flock, he hesitantly shoved the other door shut and ran to the house. The big doors were shut. The man was gone. The dog emerged from his hiding place under the hay once more. He immediately turned back into his spot at the shrink in the wall at the end wall. It was as if it troubled him that the man had come back from the fallen willow without the little hen. The dog could not know that her hidden nest that was gathering of secret eggs. The little hen would be most secret with egg-gathering men. She had to let him walk by. The big doors remained closed. The rain clattered